endless warehouse. When Nick stepped through the door of the warehouse, he had no idea what he was walking into. It was just supposed to be a quick job. Help clear out some old inventory for a friend of a friend. The building was massive, and from the outside, it looked abandoned. But when he entered, the lights flickered on, and the distant hum of overhead fluorescent bulbs filled the air. He'd barely taken 2 steps when the door slammed shut behind him. Just a glitch, Nick muttered to himself, brushing it off. He turned, pushing on the heavy door, but it didn't budge. He tested the other doors. None of them opened. Panic stirred in his chest, but he shoved it down. Maybe it was some sort of security feature, a lock that activated when you entered for inventory purposes. A tech glitch, he thought. Still, the chill creeping up his spine wouldn't go away. He moved deeper into the warehouse, past shelves stacked with dusty boxes. The air smelled old and stagnant, the kind of musty, unkempt scent that comes with decades of disuse. It felt like the walls themselves were closing in, but he kept walking, telling himself it was just his nerves. As he moved further, the space seemed to stretch endlessly. Each corridor felt the same, identical rows of shelves, tall and looming. No windows, no doors that led outside, just a labyrinth of aisles and rooms. Minutes turned to hours, or maybe it was longer. Nick wasn't sure. The confusion was starting to take hold, and his heartbeat quickened. He tried calling out for help, but his voice felt swallowed by the emptiness. That's when he heard it. The sound of something dragging across the concrete floor. A slow, deliberate scrape. It came from deep within the warehouse, faint at first, but growing louder. Nick froze. His skin prickled, every muscle in his body tensing. It was a sound he couldn't ignore. His instinct screamed for him to run, but his legs were rooted to the spot, as though his body didn't trust him to escape. The scraping stopped, and an unsettling silence settled over the space. But then, out of nowhere, a shadow darted across the edge of his vision. Nick spun, his heart hammering in his chest. A figure was moving towards him, tall, distorted, hunched. Its silhouette barely resembled a human, its limbs long and unnaturally twisted. It was dragging something, a metal chain, clinking against the floor with every slow step. "Who's there?" Nick shouted, trying to sound confident, but his voice trembled. The creature didn't respond. Instead, its movements became more fluid, more purposeful, as if it had been hunting for him all along. The scraping noise returned, louder now, closer. Nick's breath caught in his throat as he backed away, stumbling into a nearby room, slamming the door shut behind him. He thought he'd lost it. He stood there in the dim room, gasping for air, listening intently. The silence pressed in on him again, thick and suffocating. But then, it came. The unmistakable sound of the door handle rattling. Nick backed up, his heart racing. The door creaked open slowly, and there, standing in the threshold, was the creature. Its face was obscured by a mask of ragged flesh, the eyes wide and empty, as though they had seen too much to ever blink again. Its jaw hung open, dislocated, dripping with something dark and viscous. "Jason," Nick whispered, recognizing the figure. It wasn't just a monster. It was Jason. A name that had haunted his nightmares for years. A name he thought he had forgotten. Jason was a thing of stories. The urban legend of a first man who could not die. They said he had died in a fire, his body consumed and scarred beyond recognition, but he never stopped hunting. He never stopped searching for the next victim. And now, Nick was that victim. Before Nick could even think to run, Jason lunged forward with terrifying speed. Nick scrambled, barely managing to duck under the monster's grasp, but the chain wrapped around his leg, pulling him backward. His chest slammed into the cold concrete floor, and he felt his breath leave him in a violent gasp. He kicked and struggled, but Jason was already looming over him, his hollow eyes burning with a kind of hunger that chilled Nick to the core. There was no escape, no way out. Just endless corridors, endless rooms, and an unrelenting creature that never stopped. Nick's mind raced. There had to be a way out. The warehouse was endless, but surely there was an exit. He had to find it. He had to survive. But Jason's hand came down hard, gripping Nick's throat, and the world blurred into darkness. The last thing Nick heard was the sound of chains dragging across the floor, growing fainter with each passing second. When the morning sun rose, the warehouse was silent once more, its endless rows stretching into infinity, as if night's events had never